Hi everyone, Jessie here. Thank you for joining me today. Currently, I don't have a video because I'm getting ready for my day, and unfortunately that means my hair is not brushed, my armpits are not shaved. I'm just standing here getting ready. You can hear me brushing my hair now. Um, Wearing a sports bra, and not a cute one either. Sorry, I had to move my cat away. Wearing a sports bra, not a cute one. Kind of just looking a little janky. And I love being transparent, but this is just not it. So I just thought I should change the settings. And podcast is supposed to be audio mostly anyway, right? So yeah, today I just wanted to stop in and talk about what it's like living with ADHD as a graduate student, as a student who's getting their doctorate in dental surgery. And I think that as minority women, I know that we're extremely underdiagnosed with ADHD. And so me being privileged enough to getting my ADHD diagnosis, even though I got it when I was like 22 years old, gives me a lot of knowledge, right, that I can put to the forefront and educate others on, who may also be struggling with ADHD, who may not be struggling with ADHD, but maybe, think that they are or know somebody who that might be struggling with ADHD, and just kind of wondering, how do I learn more about this? Neurological. Yeah, but how do I learn more about this neurodevelopmental disorder, right? Sorry, of course my cats want to be all up in my grill when I'm getting ready. I have both of them. So, anyways, I was a senior in college when I was diagnosed with ADHD. I was 22 years old. I was diagnosed. Actually, I don't even know if I was 22 because I was diagnosed in November, in fall, first semester of my senior year of undergrad at Marquette University. And then I finally got like my accommodations and medications in place that spring semester. So it was near the end of first semester of my senior year of undergrad. And so I was a psych major, right? And the number one rule of learning psychology and stuff is to never diagnose yourself or, those that you know. But in, a few of my classes, obviously ADHD was brought up. We learned about ADHD and I was just like, man, this sounds awfully familiar, right? And so then slowly throughout the years, like throughout my junior year of undergrad, I had a few really close friends. I would say at the time, 3 of my bestest friends, actually, no, I'm sorry, 4 of my bestest friends either had ADHD, like that was diagnosed in childhood, or was just getting diagnosed throughout undergrad. And hearing about their experiences, about their symptoms, about all that kind of sounded extremely familiar to me. But I don't know. I just wasn't really sure what to do, really. I know that my friends having ADHD definitely inspired me to get the treatment that I so needed and deserved, right? Freshman and sophomore year of undergrad were pretty decent. Sophomore year was definitely a lot harder than freshman year because since I was a psych major, I kind of took all my gen eds, and I was in the honors program as well at Marquette. So I had to take all my gen eds, all my honors gen eds. I tested out of Psych 1001 because I had, I don't remember what I got in my AP Psych, like a 4 or 5, I don't know. I think it was a 4. So I was able to not take Psych 1001 because my AP credits counted for that. And so my first psychology class as a freshman was Theories of Personality, which I obviously thought was fascinating, and that affirmed my love for psychology and my choice to stay in a psychology major, even though I was predental, planning to go to dental school. And so freshman, sophomore year, I said it was pretty easy. Sophomore year was tough because then sophomore year, I started taking Chem 1001, Bio 1001, all those basic sciences that weren't being completed by my major or the honors credits, but I needed them to apply to dental school, right? They were like the prereqs for dental school. So that was a little hard. Especially bio, that class I hated so much and I just couldn't seem to quite get it. No matter how much I studied, I couldn't grasp the material. I just felt like I was slowly drowning and people around me just could get it right away and so much faster. And it's not that I couldn't understand, it just I was just lacking in the timing of just trying to figure out how to study for this class and then how to switch the gears to my brain during tests and take that information that I like memorized and studied and applied it to like application kind of questions instead of like plug and chug kind of questions, you know? And I actually excelled in chem. I really loved chemistry, gen chem, whatever. Junior year comes, and I just remember always having that feeling the summer before a lot of hard years. It's currently what I'm feeling right now. Before D2 year, I remember feeling that before like 7th grade. I remember feeling it before 5th grade. And it's just like the anxiety of, because all these times before, you hear all these horror stories about that grade, that class, whatever. And so I was filled with anxiety going into junior year because that was the dreaded year I was taking Orgo. I was taking organic chemistry and biochem. And I knew it was going to be rough, right? But also, that was COVID year. And that was the year, especially that fall semester, when everything was fully online. And that, for me, left me to my demises. And this is something that I've been trying to process and, like, learn how to regurgitate and tell it academically. Because I did have a lot of concerning behavior and tendencies during COVID, during junior year, right? But as one does, that was the year that I turned 21. So, I mean... Yeah, and all my friends have always been a year older than me. So when I was a junior, all my friends were already over 21 or 21, were seniors in undergrad. So just use your imagination to take that through what my junior year of college looked like. But aside from Orgo and biochem, actually I did really well in biochem. Actually, I got a B, but Orgo I got a D plus and Orgo 1, and I was distraught. I remember crying, lying in my bed thinking, I'm never gonna freaking be a dentist. And I emailed my professor just begging him to curve me to that C-. That's all I needed. And I don't think I ever received a reply from him. Just being left alone in my room, basically unattended, on Zoom classroom did me no favors. I did not pay attention to anything. Everything was left more last minute than usual. Like, it was just really awful. I presented a lot of ADHD symptoms that year. Again, this is something I think I have to dedicate a whole episode to talk more in depth about once I'm ready to be more vulnerable and, like I said, figure out how to regurgitate it properly. But that year was a lot of like alcoholic tendencies, a lot of hypersexuality, because I had just recently gotten out of a like 3.5 year relationship that went from high school to that fall semester of my junior year of college, right? So I'm trying to figure out who I am, what I like. So thank you, I guess, for that experience of my life, for allowing me to come to terms with my true self, which has been really liberating. And so, I think things really happen for a reason, right? And that was the year where I was like, I just can't take this anymore. Something is wrong. And I don't think I'll be able to get into dental school if I keep going down this track. And if I do somehow, by the grace of God, get into dental school with this brain, because I knew there was something wrong with my brain, right? Psych major, yeah. I just didn't want to carry that baggage into dental school because I just knew that they would not set me up for success the way that I wanted it to be, right? So I ended up going to basically kind of like a dental school, but for like psychology at Marquette, and was, interviewed and assessed and brought through many different IQ tests, memorization tests. There was times where she was a grad student, learning how to be a clinical psychologist, and there's some tests where she would read me a passage and then I would have to listen intently, right, and answer questions. And that's kind of when I started losing it, because the memory test, the little puzzles, like, that was fun and all. But I remember when she was asking me questions about the passage, I just started crying. And I was like, I just don't remember. I was listening to you, but I don't remember a thing you said. Then I was diagnosed clearly with ADHD and general anxiety disorder. Reading my report, like, I'm going to tear up because I was like scoring in the 99th percentile for a lot of things, like my reading, when I was reading comprehension, and a lot of just problem solving stuff. But then you just see the deficiencies in my working memory, in my executive functioning, just throughout my life. Like, it was just so imminent. And I think something else that really pushed me was when I shared this experience, obviously, with the psychologist student, because in order to be diagnosed with ADHD, there's kind of like 3. That was not a fart. I'm sorry. That was my foot. I'm so sorry if anyone heard that. That was not a fart. That was my foot. Anyways, in order to be diagnosed with ADHD, there's like 3 main settings or realms in our life, right? There's work, there's school, and there's home. And in order to be diagnosed with ADHD, you're going to have two of, like, your symptoms are going to have to present in two out of three of those places. So obviously my symptoms presented in all the places. But I think what really kind of opened my eyes up to me is just because I knew I was feeling ADHD at home, obviously. Like, even as a kid, chores are the worst thing ever. I am so messy and unorganized, but it's a chaotic disorganization because I kind of know where everything is, right? But it's just not, I don't want to say normal, but yeah, I mean, it's not. I mean, I think that, like, my messiness has contributed to a lot of me ending friendships and friendships ending when I lived with people because people don't want to be around that. And I totally understand that. But that's just something I wish I would have known ahead of time, right? It would have saved me a lot of friendships and a lot of embarrassment since my freshman year of college, right? So it was presenting in home. It was obviously presenting in school. I mean, look at my academic abilities versus my, standardized testing scores and stuff like that. But work, I feel like, was kind of not really presenting to me just because I've always hated work and work has always been boring, something that I don't really, pay attention to. I've always had retail jobs, or in undergrad, I worked desk receptionist jobs. But when I started dental assisting, that's when my ADHD was put to the test, right? And it wasn't until, I think, again, that fall of junior year when the dentist that I worked for graciously, thankfully, told me, kind of just saying, like, hey, sometimes you're not really paying attention. Well, yeah, obviously I would zone out during sectioning because it's boring. But it's just like, I was just in another dimension sometimes. I would just, hand him the wrong instruments, even though I knew already at this point, the process and flow of everything. And so he's kind of like, Jesse, buck up. And I appreciate and I love him so much for doing that. Because it really showed me that, it really showed me that, this ADHD that I didn't know that I had was affecting everything, right? And for me, I could go with it affecting school, I guess, really, because I wasn't in dental school, right? Yeah, I could give a crap about Bio 1001 or English, whatever I was taking, right? Home, could give a crap again. But dentistry, that was my work. My assisting job was finally when I was exposed to the world of dentistry, and I did not want anything to hinder my experience with that. And so that's when I was like, okay, something is up, and I need to get this checked out. Hence, the 3 out of 3 settings that ADHD presented in. Yeah, it's a no-brainer. I freaking have ADHD. And sometimes I curse my ADHD brain. I curse my ADHD brain. I curse my anxious brain and my anxious stomach and my anxious body, right? Because trauma and anxiety and all that manifests physically in our body, and I think that explains a lot of things. Something else that I would love to open up more about one day, and could dedicate a whole episode to, is just I suffered from bulimia for about, I would say 10 years of my life. I was a very, 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 very prominent binger and purger, and nobody knew until I came out about it. Came out once again. Last year, because me and my best friend Sophia from Marquette, which I definitely need to get on here at some time, had a research project about, which won first place, by the way, about eating disorders and how that manifests in dental patients, right? Because a few years ago, I worked at the Marquette School of Dentistry, and I would get my cleaning and dental work there done for very, very, very cheap cost because I was an employee, right? And I have quite a few, especially on my posterior, my back molars and premolars, I have quite a few restorations and stuff done. And so when I went in for my cleaning 2 years ago, the hygienist was just questioning me so much about why I have so many cavities, and she knew I was working in endo, I was a predental, I just applied dental school, student. And she was just badgering me about it over and over. And, I said to her, I'm not the best, I love candy, I'm not the best about my sugar intake, but I do make sure that I do clean my teeth and take care of my oral hygiene. And it was very scary because this was the first time I'd ever said it out loud, admitted it. Even though Sophia knew I was suffering with bulimia, I never full on said it, right? But I was I'm just going to be honest, I've been suffering from bulimia for a very, very long time. And obviously, all the throwing up just eroded my teeth away. And she's like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I thought, yeah, as you should be. You are a healthcare professional, and I'm sorry, I understand maybe I am your colleague, kind of, but come on. Sorry. But that's why I think I'm so adamant now about just the education of eating disorders in the realm of dentistry. The reason why I think that it's never been so prominently tied in with the profession is because eating disorders typically, stereotypically, and probably, I'm sure, statistically for a while have been mostly suffered by women. I believe that if it's a problem that women are suffering with, obviously all the male dentists and researchers at the time are not going to give a crap again, and are not going to look into it and not going to research it properly, just like all the things that we're seeing with tampons now having lead and stuff. And again, ADHD is another one. And so I think that's why that connection between eating disorders, especially bulimia, when you're throwing up all the time, and that's pure acid in your mouth, right? And dentistry has just never been highlighted. And so that's something that I really am passionate about now. And I know that our field is making great progress in connecting those as we have more younger women dentists and hygienists and assistants enter the field, right? And so there's just a lot psychologically that I have struggled with throughout my life, and I feel like that hasn't even scratched the tip of the iceberg. But basically the moral of my story is, because I think I need to get going. I don't want to do the classic ADHD thing of me rambling and running late, right? But I think the moral of the story is that, like, if there's anything that you ever feel like you're struggling with psychologically, neurologically, developmentally, cognitively, any of that, first of all, it does not define you. And it's not a wall or a ceiling to stop you from chasing your dreams, following what your heart believes is best for you, just completing those goals that almost seem impossible. Because I'm sure there's many times where I've told somebody that I'm studying to be a dentist, and they have looked at me and they've thought, how? Sometimes I look in the mirror and I think that too. But I'm reading this really great book right now called ADHD is Awesome, and it's reaffirming to me that all my ADHD qualities are the qualities that are going to help me succeed in dentistry. And these are the qualities, my ADHD qualities are the qualities that are going to help me strive to be the best dental student and best dentist and clinician and surgeon that I can be, because that's what my patients deserve. And I think as we have more and more ADHDers enter the health profession fields, because honestly it's such an amazing field, it's a perfect field for us, right? It's very stimulating. It's kind of low-key dangerous, which we like. It's very cognitively challenging, which we enjoy. Especially dentistry, very hands-on, very creative, very artsy, right? And so it's just like the perfect career for ADHDers, and I don't want them to be discouraged from following very impossible dreams. And on that emotional note, I will be ending this podcast, and I hope you guys, there's always those people that, like, I see that are always happy and, like, energetic and, you know, always bubbly, and when I see them upset, I'm just kind of like, oh, shoot, kind of, damn. Something must have really shook them up or bothered them or something. And I feel like that's the effect that I have on people, because I don't really present my anger or sadness outwardly. I always have bottled that inside. And so I feel like when people do end up seeing me upset or, like, crying or very angry, they're kind of just, like, taken back. And so I'm sorry if me crying on here has left you taken aback. But that's the purpose of being vulnerable. I hope that my emotions and that my transparency, even though the camera's not on right now, and my vulnerability changes something for someone and helps them follow their dreams and succeed, because I promise you it is not impossible. And whoever says it is impossible is wrong. And one thing that I don't like being is wrong. I think a lot of my listeners who are also in the dental field can agree with that and resonate with that. And on that note, I hope you guys, I'm recording this currently on a Monday. Don't know when I'm going to release it, but hope you guys have a great Monday or whatever day of the week you're listening to this on. Thank you.